Welcome to r/slash relationship advice, where an 11-year-old boy has a disturbing crush on an adult woman. Our next Reddit post is from Deleted. I'm a 23-year-old woman, and I've been with my 26-year-old boyfriend for almost 3 years, and we live together. Recently, his parents were arrested. I'd rather not go into details. And as a result, his 11-year-old brother has had to move in with us. I understand the situation is complicated, and my boyfriend didn't really have a choice. Obviously, he couldn't just leave his brother with nowhere to go. The thing is, I find his little brother creepy, and I feel horrible even saying that. I know he's a kid and he's gone through a traumatic experience, but some of the things he does makes me really uncomfortable. For instance, he stares at me a lot, like almost all the time when we're in the same room. I'll catch him just watching me, and it's unsettling. He also has this habit of walking into our bedroom without knocking, especially when my boyfriend is out. I've told him multiple times that he needs to knock, but he either ignores it or just doesn't care. He will shower and use the bathroom with the door wide open, clearly so everyone can see him when walking past, even though I've told him he needs to keep the door closed when he's in there. One time, I had just gotten out of the shower and was in my towel when I walked into the bedroom, and he was just standing there, staring at me. I asked him what he was doing, and he didn't even answer, just kept staring before finally walking away. I brought this up to my boyfriend, but he brushed it off, saying his brother is probably just adjusting to everything and doesn't mean any harm. I lent the kid my laptop because he said he needed it for homework, and when I got it back, it was completely filled with adult content. Like he had downloaded it. It was in his search history. I told my boyfriend he needed to speak with him, but my boyfriend says it's normal for a boy his age. He just told me to clear the search history and delete what he downloaded. But he's not being normal. He's weirding me out, and I feel bad even saying it. I get that this kid is dealing with a lot. Losing his parents like that is traumatic. But at the same time, I feel like my feelings are being dismissed. My boyfriend says I'm overreacting, but I honestly feel really uncomfortable in my own home now. I even find myself avoiding being alone with his brother because it just feels weird. I don't know if I'm overreacting. Like, I understand giving some leeway because of everything that's happened in his life, but he is really weirding me out. This kid definitely needs some sort of professional help, therapy, and you need a new boyfriend because at the end of the day, your boyfriend is just not listening to you or caring about your feelings at all. Our next Reddit post is from Throwaway Guy. My fiancée Jane attended her bachelorette party, and one of the bridesmaids' husbands contacted me and told me that he had seen something that made him suspect Jane had been sexual with a stripper at her bachelorette party. Any passionate hugging or romantic kissing outside of our relationship is a complete deal breaker that was established when the relationship had begun. When I asked this guy for details, he indicated her using her hands to pleasure the stripper in a roundabout way. When I asked if he could be mistaken or misinterpreting a text or overheard conversation, he kept insisting he was 100% sure. I personally know the bridesmaid, and I think she was feeling guilty and she was using her husband as some sort of a proxy informant to keep my girlfriend from coming after her when I confronted her. When I got off the phone with the guy, I was so destroyed about it that I just shut down. I had just had my own sort of non-bachelor party at home playing WoW Classic with some friends. So to hear this news after such a wonderful day hit extra hard. My cousin, who's been friends with Jane since childhood, went to the party with her, so I decided to try to calm down and wait until the next day to ask her if she saw anything. At this point, I was still hoping this was some sort of misunderstanding or mean prank. Jane didn't live with me, and she was planning on staying the night at her parents' home, so I knew she wouldn't show up unannounced. I basically laid in bed all night, staring at the dark ceiling, listening to the Doors and Opeth, trying not to lose my mind. I waited until noon the next day to call my cousin. I wasn't able to get through the first 5 times I called. Red alarms are going off like crazy now. So when I suspected she was avoiding me, I went over to my parents' place and used my dad's office line. When she finally answered the phone and realized it was me, the somber tone in the voice of a normally annoyingly upbeat 23-year-old party girl pretty much told me everything I needed. I said, "I heard things got a little crazier than usual last night." "Yeah, I think you already know why I'm calling, don't you?" "Yeah." My cousin was obviously holding back tears at this point. Basically, long and weeping cousin story short, I found out that Jane did indeed use her hands to pleasure a male stripper, along with several other women, some of whom are in long-term relationships or married. They then decided to leave the house that they were at and drive intoxicated to the strip club afterwards, where Jane and a few other women had private dances. My cousin tried to argue that this doesn't mean that Jane doesn't love me, and it was meaningless fun that got out of hand. Out of hand, I bet it did. This effing infuriated me. I didn't shout at her, but I told her if that's what she thinks, she had no idea what love actually is. At this point, I informed my parents and brothers what was going on, and of course, my mother starts crying. Another person hurt by this stupid BS. I spent the rest of the day laying in bed at my parents' house, staring at the ceiling, ignoring Jane's calls and texts. I know some people have more open relationships and can get past this stuff, but I'm just not that guy. I'm monogamous all the way to the center. I eventually canceled everything and lost a bunch of deposits. I know it's a lame move, but I broke up with Jane over text. I decided it was best to just walk away clean with no serious confrontation. There was nothing to gain by shouting, arguing, making accusations, and calling her names. When people are cornered like this when they do something wrong, they can lash out. And I didn't want to have the woman I was about to marry say horrible things to me in some sort of defense of her behavior. I'm effing heartbroken and feel betrayed, and that kind of stuff isn't going to help. I just sent her a text explaining that I know what she did. I explained I don't want revenge. I'm not interested in humiliating her or her friends and spreading it around, but this is a sure sign that we are not right for each other, and it's over with no possibility of reconciliation. I waited until she responded once to make sure she got the text, and then had her blocked on my phone and all social media. I gave all of her junk at my place to my cousin to give back to her, and I haven't heard anything from her or her family since. Then OP posted an update. Someone from her camp finally contacted me. Her stepdad called me tonight to ask what was going on and if there's any way to fix things. I didn't give him any details, I just explained that Jane stepped outside the bounds of forgivable behavior in our relationship, and there's absolutely no way to salvage things. And any time spent trying by any party is time wasted that would be better spent moving on. When I said that, I could tell he understood what it meant and basically what happened. He's a pretty laid-back, old-school Hispanic dude, and he's sorry things didn't work out and wished me well. I wasn't super close with the guy, but I will miss hanging out in his garage shooting the shit about motorcycles and stuff. Then OP posted another update. I just got done talking to the bridesmaid's husband again, who first called me and let me know what was going on. I don't know him, but I am a friendly acquaintance with his wife. Apparently, what happened is his wife became extremely uncomfortable when some of the women started grabbing and stroking the stripper's dong, and she left and went home. When the husband asked her why she came home early, she got upset and spilled the beans. More than likely to protect her own marriage if the information got out, I would guess. Anyways, the dude made a moral call and decided the husbands and boyfriends of the women had a right to know how their significant others were acting when they weren't around. And he made his wife give him all the contact info that she had. Seriously, I owe this guy so much. Had I found out about this years down the line, the end of the relationship would have been so much worse. His wife still won't talk to me, but it doesn't matter now. I told the dude that when things settle down, I'm gonna take him out and buy him every beer in the bar. Had this dude not had the moral fortitude to make that call, I may have never known. Down in the comments, I'm seeing a couple of people say that the wife probably wasn't really acting lustfully, she was probably just, caught up in mob mentality, which is a stupid argument because the other wife left the party, she saw what was going on, and she peaced out and told her husband. So if she can resist peer pressure, why couldn't have OP's fiance? Our next Reddit post is from Offentlage. My wife will not shut up. I'm not talking about your usual chatty Cathy. I mean, she almost literally will not shut up. She will talk continuously from the moment she knows I'm within earshot. Not just in the same room. I mean, as soon as it's reasonable to assume that I can hear her. She will not stop talking until I'm gone, and sometimes not even then. On more than one occasion, I've gone to the bathroom, turned on the loud exhaust fan, taken a leisurely dump, and then returned to hear her cheerfully engaged in the same conversation she was enjoying before I went in. She also refuses to use the exhaust fan when she's in the restroom because it would prevent her from being heard. So I get to hear all the bathroom noises on top of whatever Homeric epic about her friend's cousin's girlfriend's hairdresser that she's blathering on about. I once drove from Tampa, Florida to Chicago, Illinois with her, before we were married. I'm such an idiot. Without saying more than 10 sentences. She didn't stop talking the entire way. The entire way. Television on to a show I like? That's not a problem. She'll happily turn the volume down so it doesn't get in the way. Passionately hugging? That's the perfect time to tell me about how Olivia Newton-John still has the leather pants she wore in Grease. And she, brace yourself, still fits in them. Really? Needless to say, we don't go to the movies. Ever. I've been shushed out of too many theaters. I get it. She grew up in a huge Italian Catholic family in the Bronx. If you don't talk loud and constantly, you don't get to talk at all. I, on the other hand, grew up in a Scandinavian family with 2 children. To this day, I'm not sure we ever had a conversation in our house. I actually often wonder if that's what made me attractive to her. I was taught to politely listen to people and then wait for them to finish before replying. She never finishes, or takes a breath, it sometimes seems. So to her, I'm paying rapt attention to her no matter how much she talks. That's not true, though. Another difference between people of Swedish heritage is that we don't use filler words for acknowledgement. No uh-huh, or yeah, or oh my god needed. A nod of the head every 10 minutes or so is all you need to convey your attentiveness. I think it has a lot to do with living in the frigid north. You keep your mouth open as much as my wife does, and your teeth are going to shatter from the cold. To her, that's like being in the room with a dead person. She's always stopping to ask, "Are you listening?" Or say, "You never pay attention to me." Or even quiz me with, "What did I just say?" I've become an expert at storing the last 2 to 4 words she says and parroting them back at her. She'll be like, blah, blah, blah. And then she told him that she wasn't taking that kind of BS anymore. And I'll go, that kind of BS? As if I had any idea what kind of BS it was or who it was that wouldn't take it anymore. And she'll say, yeah, and think that I've been paying attention the whole time. I joke about it a lot, but it's actually getting to the point where it's a problem. Our son is 7 years old, and he's developed a pronounced stutter because she interrupts him constantly. Growing up in her house, if anyone paused for even a millisecond, that was grounds for talking over them. And you talked loud so they didn't finish. My son apparently inherited some of my less staccato speech patterns, and she basically just used that to interrupt and take over the conversation. It got so bad that he started automatically stopping and restarting words, even when he wasn't being interrupted. I didn't know that was considered a stutter until we went to one of those parent-teacher night things, and a teacher listened to my wife and then turned to me and said, "Well, at least now I know why Josh had a stutter," just like that. She failed at least one job interview because of this. I know because I lined it up with a business acquaintance myself. He called me up and said sorry, but he just couldn't take being in the same room with her because she would not stop talking. We're rarely invited for a second couples date. She monopolizes the conversation every time we go out with other people. Who wants more than one dose of that? You're probably wondering, well, have you told her about this? Yes. Many times, sometimes jokingly, sometimes with utter seriousness. Her reactions vary from anger, talking louder, higher, faster, and using more swear words, to tears. She's the only person I know who can carry on a totally unrelated conversation while sobbing hysterically. The one thing that doesn't happen is her talking any less. I try not to let it get to me. She's a very affectionate woman, loves me to death, mother of my child. Pretty as the day we met, prettier even. We still get plenty of alone time. Granted, she won't shut up while we're doing it, but I'm pretty busy, so I don't notice as much. But it does get to me. It's selfish and shows a lack of self-awareness. There's a time and a place for enthusiastic conversation, and that's not always and everywhere. I know the answer to the problem. I have to talk back. In effect, the only thing that possibly could shut her up is for me to do the same thing as she does. I would have to interrupt at the slightest pause. I would have to talk louder, yelling if necessary when she tries to interrupt me. I would have to learn to use Italian hand gestures to emphasize my points and chop off her objections. But I'm not Italian. I'm a waspy, pale dude who grew up in a household that would have made a mortuary sound like a middle school cafeteria. 12 years of this has finally pushed me to the brink. I'm not sure if I can take it that much longer. I'm just not sure if I could get a word in to tell the judge why I'm there in his divorce courts. My wife wouldn't let me. You guys may already know this about me, but I have a background in professional writing. I got a master's degree in literary and cultural studies. I was a technical writer before being a YouTube, and I've read countless stories on Reddit. I couldn't even add up the number of stories I read. So I can kind of speak with authority when I say that OP here is actually a phenomenal writer. He is way, way, way better than average. I'd give him like a 9 out of 10 even. Good flow, logical progression, good storyteller, some decent jokes in there as well. So it's a shame because OP seems witty and a good conversationalist, and he can tell a story in an interesting way, but it's wasted on his wife. A lot of people get on Reddit and they can't even string 2 sentences together, but I genuinely feel like I would love to have a conversation with OP because he seems insightful and funny and logical. So this is a sad story. It was kind of funny to begin with, but once we got to the part about the kid having a stutter, developing actual psychological problems, I'm like, yo, this is actually pretty bad. That was rSlash-relationships, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.